Good afternoon. This is Dr. Amrita Vohra. I'm an educator and more than that, a learner, just like all of us. We're going to talk about integrating global citizenship education today in this session. But before we continue, I want you to reflect on a few questions. What are some of the key controversies or issues faced by our world today? Can young people make a difference? And if yes, how? Which skills or key competencies do we need them to develop? Some ideas, I'm sure some thoughts are coming by, and I'm hoping that during this discussion we'll build on that. Simply put, global citizenship education means an opportunity to develop critical thinking on complex global issues in the safe haven of the classroom. Well, let's hope they are safe and we're able to keep them safe given what's going on in the world around us. We may all have come on different boats, but we are in the same boat now. I'm quoting Martin Luther King Jr. The world has increasingly become a smaller and a smaller place, increasingly interdependent as well as diverse. We now cannot think of living in a culture which is just unidimensional. We cannot think of living with people who are very similar to us. That advantage is lost on us. We have to learn cross-cultural communication. We have to learn to live with the other. One of the key skills that we need in global citizens is not just respect for the other, but actually a celebration of diversity, a happiness to be with people who are very different, a celebration of different viewpoints, a way of understanding different perspectives and empathy for what not just me in my local context I'm going through, but also what the whole world is going through. What affects me locally? How does it impact people across the globe? People sitting in some other country, people probably sitting in a small village near my town. Children need to be able to think like this. Of course, we always have said that education needs to be connected with real life. Context is important. But now there's a little wider context that we need to give it. They need to understand the local context for sure, but they also need to understand the global context. So every concept that we teach now needs to be dealt with a little differently from the local as well as the global context. If we look at it, urban affluent children today are living quite interestingly and rather ironically very overprotected as well as underprotected lives. We want to protect them and therefore give them maybe everything that we can, and therefore they're far removed from the reality of the world. They may not understand what really a child living on the station goes through, what the reality of our economy actually is. They may not understand the concept of hunger. They may not understand poverty. On the other hand, we cannot really guarantee safety, as well as the media and the information overload all around us actually exposes them to all kinds of very often very nasty and over dramatized information, very often very horrific facts, and children are bound to be confused. Let's in fact prefer the term young people to children. This is just a way of giving them that sense of respect as individuals with a mind of their own, as engaged global citizens. That is what we want to see them as. So This is why we need to change the way we help them grow. We need to break free from the various stereotypes around us, which are always all-encompassing. And thus, what's happening is that across the globe, World Economic Forum, UN, United Nations, Oxfam, Harvard School of Education, and so on, there are endless organizations globally that are waking up to this and are trying to raise awareness on global citizenship education and the need for it, which is what you see in the 16 critical skills defined by World Economic Forum. The same thing is what you see also in a lot of ways in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals defined by United Nations to be reached and achieved by 2030. Why global citizenship education, I believe, is somewhat clear now, but what exactly are we trying to do through this? We want to develop an ability or an informed decision-making skill in children. They need to decide for themselves. They need to have a viewpoint of their own. They need to have a thinking mind. A thinking mind, yes, but a thinking mind with a global perspective. A thinking mind with a solution-oriented thinking, with an all-encompassing kind of a thinking that children need in the growing scenario, so that they can take considered action and they can choose, and they can then really also take responsibility for that action, which is equally important. Literacy and numeracy, reading, writing, and arithmetic, have always been seen as the aspects of education, as the foundational literacies. But things have changed. We now need ICT literacy. We now need financial literacy. We need cultural and civic literacy. These have all together become foundational literacies. Skills required have also changed. The skills that children need today are critical thinking, creativity, collaboration is very, very key again, and of course communication. So how do we focus on developing these in the classrooms? Oxfam helps you, gives you a lot of models and support as schools and as teachers, and so does the World Bank and World Economic Forum. All we need to do is look into some resources. So enough about the why, let's get to how. One good news for teachers. We always like some content which is given to us ready-made. So Professor Fernando Reimers of the Harvard University has created a free resource which we can all use. It means 60 lesson plans, which means 5 each from grades 1 to 12. And you can pick out these lesson plans, maybe use them, embed them in your curriculum, integrate with what you were teaching. The topics work out very well and they are age appropriate. Alongside, you can also think of this as a prototype, which is essentially what he would like you to do, and take ideas, embed it in your own curriculum that you create with global citizenship education in mind for your school. An ideal framework could be, you could use learn, think, be. So the first step is always to learn about a global issue and a challenge. The second step will be thinking about it, thinking of solutions, understanding various perspectives and thought processes, understanding the impact on different kinds of people across the globe, and then be, which is one of the most key, converting it into action. Children can actually take a lot of action towards achievement of sustainable development goals in their own unique, simple ways, but every day it is required. You would not just be doing some projects, which has become a common feature of schooling today, but you would actually be helping children make a difference and actually achieve. Some of the things that you will be doing in the classroom will be a lot to do with controversial issues. There are a lot of controversial issues that would need dealing with. What you need essentially are some ground rules in the classroom. The best way to create ground rules has always been a very democratic one, where we need children to work them out themselves, ideally working in collaborative groups and then forming the rules for themselves. However, of course, we all know as teachers that we always lead them to the direction that we want. So some of the ground rules that you could use could be listen to learn, one voice at a time. Everybody needs to respect the other, and therefore one voice, we listen. Challenge ideas, not people. Very often we end up praising and challenging people, commenting on people. Instead of that, it also helps in developing growth mindsets to challenge ideas, to praise work or process rather than people. So challenge ideas, not people, helps your children not just with global citizenship education, but with developing a growth mindset as well. Always give a rationale can be a very, very key ground rule. Using appropriate language is again important. And think of solutions. Don't dwell so much on the problem, but think of solutions. That can be another ground rule, because the moment you'll start any discussion on controversial issues, the discussion tends to be around the problem, tends to be around a deadlock, and we do not want that. We want these children to develop thinking that helps them come up with solutions. We want them to develop critical thinking. So they need to be doing problem solving and critical thinking, and therefore one ground rule, very key, will be think of solutions, focus on solutions. Now as a teacher, you could decide to wear different kinds of hats. You could play the role of a devil's advocate at times. For example, you could just say that, well, we need more stay-at-home mothers, so women shouldn't work. You of course don't believe in it, but you want children to discuss. You want children to refute and rationalize as to why and why not. It is one of the things that is very personal to them. So it's local, it's personal, and it's also political in a lot of ways. This is one example where you take them from the local and personal to the global and the political, and you make them develop thinking on it, why and how it works, and why not. You could instead be an advocate, where you present a lot of ideas, you present them with a lot of evidence, and you take a position, and you say this is how you justify your position, you advocate it, and then you can ask them to deal further with these ideas, find more evidence, and advocate the same position. You could be an impartial chairperson. You could just say that, well, these are the ideas, just project facts objectively, just give them all facts on paper, and then let them decide what positions they would like to assume for different kinds of issues. There are some strategies that are also very useful. One of my favorite ones is community of inquiry. You can use this in a very large classroom also. When there are a very large number of students in the classroom, you may need to form groups. Groups are easier to handle and they can work in groups. That's one thing. Collaborative learning is always encouraged. If there's a small group, children can work individually. You basically begin with a stimulus. You provide a stimulus. It could be a real life story, maybe the story of a refugee trying to find space in a country, trying to rebuild his or her life. It could be any news clipping, a picture. And then you have each one or each group think about it and then speak about it. Thereafter, you have them think about questions that they have on this aspect or on this issue that the story or your stimulus has raised. Once they have thought of questions, they can research on these questions, they can ask each other to answer their questions and research together on these questions. After this whole thing is done, you need to bring it all together, and therefore you can have discussions where they can come up with solutions. What are the answers to their questions and what are potential solutions to the problem? They can come up with a number of solutions, a wide variety of solutions, and debate them, which is what is needed in the classroom, and it will really help build perspective. You can then use voting on which solutions are we going for. You can also use a triple vote system wherein each learner or each young mind has 3 votes and can decide to distribute them between different kinds of solutions. And so we can come up with various solutions and prioritize them. Another key strategy, because of the media, needs to be critical analysis of the media. The media is very often biased, and one very important skill that we need to build is remove the bias. Let children actually understand that not all information presented to them is genuine. So when using the media, we could bust stereotypes. We could use it for a lot of things. You could pick up as a stimulus any news clipping again, any picture used in the media again, any article, and ask children, or any cartoon, and ask children what exactly is being projected. Who is being projected in a positive light and who is being projected in a negative light? What does it make you think about the person? What does it make you think about this country, this place? How does it affect what you think, what you feel? Can we change it? Is it over dramatic? What are the factors that make it over dramatic? How can we change it? And then you can encourage them to change the news piece and rewrite it, or change the picture that they would like to see. You see an image in the background. This does talk about a lot of stereotypes, and very young children are actually shown these kind of stereotypes. Now, if we tell children that this is a stereotype, it's not enough. What we need them to be able to see is, what do you think is different between these characters? How are they projected? What is happening? Do you see the princess? Are all princesses blonde? What do you understand about the mother? Is she supposed to be fat? You can ask a lot of questions without being very specific. The questions that I just asked, for example, were very close-ended. It's better to ask open-ended questions and let them come up with these kind of thoughts. What do you see? What is being projected about a villain? What does a villain look like in this image? What does a princess look like? What does a nerd look like in this image? And so on. Encourage discussion, and then slowly and surely your children will bust the stereotype for you. Another strategy is sustainable development goals, picking up each goal and taking it from local to global. It could be a local to global question time that you use. You ask children a simple question: does this affect us? Does this affect me? Does this affect my friend? Does this affect somebody in some other city, some other village? Does this affect somebody in America or Australia? And how much? Does this affect people across the globe? If yes, how? Can we change it? And how? What can we do about it? So we're taking them from local to global. Another very key strategy that you could use is the value continuum. You could pick up a statement or a position. For example, the statement could be, violence is never justified in protests, whether by protesters or by the police. Now you can ask your children to take positions or rate it between 1 to 5. 1 being strongly agree, 5 being strongly disagree. They can choose which position they are at. Once they have picked out their own positions from the continuum, they can then discuss it with somebody who's got a different position than their own. They can each try and justify their own positions to the other. Once they've done this discussion, thereafter, many people may have changed their mind. Many people may have changed the position they originally had. It's very important for children to be able to realize perspectives can change. There can be a different opinion and we can understand and form a different one. It is okay to change your perspective. It is not cast in stone. Therefore, a value continuum really helps. It helps when there are some ideas too strongly ingrained through culture and other ways in our mind. There is a way we can look at things differently, and value continuum really helps, especially if you could put together a diverse group of children. For early childhood, now very often teachers say, well, global citizenship education is fine, but we can't do it in early childhood. We can't do it for pre-primary and primary children. Well, you can do a lot of things, and I'm sure Fernando Rima's curriculum will come in very handy, because there are lesson plans from grade 1 upwards. But one thing that works very well, especially in early childhood, is peace and conflict resolution strategies and games. You basically pick out simple questions on, ask children, do they have conflicts? Do they fight? Do they fight with a friend over some objects? Could be a pencil, could be maybe the television remote at home, could be anything. Do they have conflicts with their siblings? Do they have conflicts with sometimes their parents, sometimes their friends in school? And then pick out a few of these and let them role play. Once they've done the role play of the conflict, we can ask, was this necessary? What did it happen for? What was the objective? Did we achieve something? What really would help? Can we resolve this conflict? Is there a way to turn it around? A good thing that helps is reverse psychology, because the person who is the one fighting can be asked the questions. So this is one way of dealing. Another strategy would be playing the caption game. Social justice and equality are important. It's part of global citizenship education. You could let children pick out a few images and put positive and negative captions on them. Have a discussion around the captions. Have a discussion around how these captions make these images look to us. What perspective do they build? What do they make us think about the person, about the place? For example, India is shown as a land of snake charmers. What really does it reflect? Is it true? Is it correct? Or is it very limited? Do we need to change it? How can we change the captions or the image and make it more objective, more real, more unbiased? It's very important to teach children today to check out resources, check credibility of anything and everything that they are finding out on the internet, on media, anywhere, and then decide to rely or believe in what makes sense rather than just anything. It's a very key skill to develop in this age of information overload. All of this put together is part of global citizenship education. You can get help from a lot of resources that you can check out. There are resources on teachers being able to support teaching of controversial issues. There are resources for schools to build the whole culture for global citizenship education in the school, all propagated by World Economic Forum and Oxfam. And these are all free resources. You can bring them into your school and make use of them. Change is never easy. And integrating or changing anything in a school curriculum, yes, it is a Herculean task. I completely understand. But if we believe in it, we can certainly do it. So good luck with that, and I hope you enjoyed the session. We have a few questions and we can probably take some of them now. Yes, I think a teacher from India. Yeah, so there is a question saying, can a teacher from India do online teacher training? Yes, of course, I'm sure you could do it from anywhere in the world. Online teacher training modules are available online for anyone and you can access it, and you can only access them on amazon.in, amazon.in. Okay, there's another question. Is there a website or module that we can refer to learn more about teacher training? Yes, there is. It's called www.onlineteachertraining.in. That's simple. We look forward to hearing more questions, and there will be comments posted further and you'll see the slides also. Thank you.